Sure. So we spent half a day in this new space that we're working in, which is underneath the Mug and Anchor on Mahone Bay. We're moving in there. We're hopefully going to be in there by the middle of April. The long-term shout would be like beginning of May, and it's very cold down there at the moment because the heating hasn't been on. So we had a very cold morning in our winter jackets, sitting around a table in our new space. But we ended up coming up with this phrase like where the new economy works, to talk about what we're up to, you know, and I think, you know, when we first went out into the community around the hub, we ran these engagements, we ran these events, and we put posters up lots of places, and it was like, do you love working for yourself, but you don't want to work in isolation? And when we had 35 people turn up, and like in Mahone Bay, that's like a crowd. And at the meeting, one of the folks there, a fellow called David Upton, said, who in this room is starting their own business or is already running their own business? And every single person in the room put their hand up, right? So there were 30, we were like, oh my goodness, this is more than just me, Matt, and Dave wanting to share office space, right? And so what's happened over this period of time is that all kinds of different professionals have suddenly started using this shared working space, you know? So we've got hedge fund managers, we've got architects, we've got subsoil geoscientists, we've got web developers, we've got lawyers, we've got photographers, we've got graphic designers, we've got, what would you call yourself? Social entrepreneurs. So. We've got social entrepreneurs, yeah? And all at various different stages of development in terms of their business and their organization. But what's really become apparent is that there's actually a whole economy here. Like there's a whole economy here that isn't about, I need to make my business bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, a lot of these are small businesses that are working from home that have global or international reach, right? And so this phrase that came out of that first event that we did in the community was people talked about the hidden economy. There's like a hidden economy of small, progressive, creative entrepreneurs, right, that haven't been able to be connected to each other, right? And so we feel that we're becoming a place where there's lots of very highly skilled professionals who are very progressive in their thinking about how they run their businesses, and we've literally become a home for that. We've become a home for all of these different people to come together and to get to work with each other. And there's a community that has formed out of that feels exciting, you know. And when we first I did this presentation in the hub to the members, and one of the folks there was just like, well, you know, we've got about 20 members now. We're having to move space because we can't fit any more people in, you know. We expect to be at around 30, 35 by the end of this year or mid next year in terms of membership, you know. So that's essentially an organization that is creating the conditions for between 20 and 35 small businesses to succeed, you know. Like the number of people that we represent, that the Hub South Shore represents, is able to leverage the opinion of to get things done. And then so someone else said to me, that's probably the largest employer in Mahone Bay, if you think about it like that, right? That's like one of the largest employers in the region. Like, who else is employing 35 people? 35. I mean, so it was just like a really, we hadn't even thought about it like that, you know. How many does Composites employ? I don't know how many Composites employs, but it was a really interesting thing for us. And so the growth just keeps coming, and the diversity of business people that keep turning up also keeps coming. So we feel there is a new economy that's emerging that isn't about traditional businesses, that's about small businesses that take their work to scale by being connected to each other, not by becoming bigger and bigger shops, right? So we're able to take contracts because we have relationships to different people in our community. So when I'm taking on a piece of work, and I'm doing a piece of work within a lot of my work is around kind of like change management across large organizations or systems, you know, I go hire someone who's got branding, I go hire someone who's got web development, I go hire a project manager, right? I go hire someone who can build the wiki for the knowledge sharing, right? I don't employ those people in my company. They're just connected to me through my relationships and my networks. None of our businesses are about getting bigger. They're about getting more connected. And that seems to be a fundamentally different approach to entrepreneurship than the one that's currently coined in most places, which is like, you're a successful entrepreneur if you employ more and more people. And that's not what we're about. In our world, you're a successful entrepreneur if you're connected and in good relationship with more and more people and a greater diversity of people than you've ever worked with before. That's what gives you capacity to take on projects of scale where you're working internationally, nationally, regionally, right? So it's a different approach to entrepreneurship is what we're finding. All right, so where we're at, 2 years open, 20 odd members, got a strong brand. Most people know what the Hub South Shore is. They don't necessarily know what it is, but a lot of people know that it exists, you know? It's like, yeah, the Hub, there's this crazy thing happening in the Mahone Bay Center. What is that? And like, we constantly have people sticking their head in the door to have a look. And they're like, oh, lovely room. What are you all doing here, you know? Or like, you must all be working in the tech industry. And they're like, it's you know, it's not all in the tech industry, right? So there's also some level of credibility that seems to come with being a Hub member, you know? So I can go into local organizations and say I'm one of the founders of the Hub or the Hub member, and that lends credibility to who I am locally as well. So we're finding the brand has strength, not just in terms of it being something that people know, it's lending credibility to our members, right? In terms of what they do. And then we've done a whole series of events, everything from like small lunch and learns where people are getting together and talking about professional pricing to a 2.5-day, 75-person event that we ran in the Mahone Bay Center where we had people coming from all over Canada, the US, and we had someone flying in from South Africa. So, you know, all scales of events to like opening events where we've got 90 people turning up for drinks and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, a big range of events from, and then of course, what we have here is an entrepreneurial community. We've got a group of entrepreneurs who are all coming together, building relationships, and it's accelerating the success of their businesses, right? So this is kind of where we're at, and we've been incubated by the Mahone Bay Center, which has been lovely. Thanks very much to them, right? But we just can't expand anymore. I went in there yesterday, and I couldn't find a desk to sit at, and I couldn't get in one of the phone booths because they were both being used. You know, so I had to go into the community room at the Mahone Bay Center to do the conference call, right? I mean, it's just like, that's where we're at. We got more demand than we can respond to, you know? And so we're really growing in response to need. This is an emergent business that's growing in response to need. There's no great plan here, right? What's the need? How do we best respond to it? Right? That's how the business is growing. It's very, very iterative like that. So we've got limited capacity to meet our members' needs. And we're also finding that by being housed in the Mahone Bay Center, it limits our influence. People still feel that we're part of the Mahone Bay Center, you know? And it's like, oh, we're actually moving out of that now. We're moving down onto Main Street. We're going to be kind of a Main Street, front door business, right? We're stepping into the community in a different way, you know? And we've got 20 members that are with us, and we expect that to continue growing. And so we know that we can't exert the kind of influence that we want on the economy by housing ourselves in the Mahone Bay Center. We have to kind of grow up, step out, and begin to start owning our own space within the fabric of the economy here. And that's really what this expansion is about. It's not just a movement of space to a different place. It's actually saying, okay, we're ready now to come out and engage in this community and this economy in a different way. We're not just a startup anymore, though we apply the startup mentality all the time, all right? And then, of course, we want to expand our programming. We want to get out and do more events and turn up the notch on our programming. So that's a little bit where we're at. And then I think that some of the kind of like the outcomes that we're seeing here is, you know, a home for the hidden economy. I talked about that already. But this sense of like there's enormous amounts of collaboration that's taking place. So we're seeing people working together on projects they wouldn't work together on. We're seeing people start businesses that they wouldn't otherwise start. We're seeing people sit down over lunch and brainstorm products with each other. I mean, everything that you would think a collaborative environment creates happens, you know, and then all kinds of things that you wouldn't think of happen, like serendipitous, synchronistic things take place where I'm sitting down with Will Martin, who's doing this work around the community forests, and then suddenly we're brainstorming his community engagement process, not because we planned a meeting, but just because he's over lunch and he's trying to think about that, and he's like, starts talking to me about it, and then he's suddenly sitting across with a person who's got 15 years of community engagement expertise around business development. We didn't plan it. It's just serendipitous. There's a lot of what happens in this space that's to do with synchronicity and serendipity, right? Right? And those kind of things are hard to measure, and they're hard to plan, which makes it difficult for us to be like, and here's the number of the da-da-da that's taken place, right? Of course, there's a, you know, we talked about this, the community that's been built, and I think that's one of the things. People sign up to the Hub because they walk in the room, they're like, this looks really funky. They got a half-decent printer. They got good internet, right? There's a table I can park my laptop, right? Or I can set up my desk as a permanent member. Great, I'm not working from home, which was hard, and I felt isolated, right? So people sign up because of the room, the facility, but they stay because of the community of entrepreneurs. It's crystal clear to us from talking to people. They sign up because they want a physical space to come and do some work. They stay engaged because of the community of entrepreneurs that surround them. We thought the value proposition when we kicked this thing off was going to be the space and the facility. The real value proposition is the relationships that people have with each other as a result of working together, and how we create the conditions for that in terms of our room setup, in terms of our events, in terms of our attitude about how we turn up in the room, right? And then I think the last thing, and this for me is like the best outcome. I mean, you know, and I can go cite businesses that have been started and stuff like that, but for me, this is the best outcome. It's courage. Like, what we're seeing is that people's courage goes through the roof from being in a room with other entrepreneurs. They're looking over the other side of the room and they're like, oh my God, I know Matt's doing that crazy thing where he's launching a new app on the subsoil geoscientist network so they can analyze data differently, and he's completely doing it himself, you know, and that changes how you turn up in your own workplace. So something happens to people's level of courage, either in terms of their startup. They're way more courageous in terms of launching new businesses. They're more courageous in terms of launching new initiatives within their own business, you know. And they're also just more courageous in terms of the type of conversations they're willing to have with others, the level of vulnerability that they're willing to have with other people, which then enables them, the more vulnerable you are in terms of your business, actually the more you're able to learn. The more you turn up and say, no, we're doing great. It's like you don't ever learn anything that way, right? So that creates a condition for business people, young, progressive business people, to be vulnerable with each other, which enables them to accelerate their learning around their business. So courage, huge outcome for me, huge outcome. All right, so we're moving house. We're moving on to the bottom floor of the Maiders Wharf building, which is underneath the Mug and Anchor. It's a 2,400 square foot space, so it's 3 times the size of what we've got right now. Windows, we're going to have a nice kitchen social, there's going to be couches, toilets, there's going to be a couple of phone booths, a meeting room out back, and a deck that's overlooking the bay. There's going to be 12 permanent desks, which are places where we have members who sit down and that they work there 5 days a week, and do you know what I mean? That's their desk. They leave stuff on their desk. We've got like hedge fund managers, which are surrounded by like 3 screens, you know. It's like, how you doing, Bruce? You see his little head pop up, you know. So like you know, and then we're going to have what we call hotel desks, which are spaces where people can come in, they can put down a laptop and they stay there. And some of those hotel desks are full-time members, where they're working there 5 days a week, but they just don't need a permanent desk. Other of them are people who are turning up from, you know, 2 days a week to drop in, right? And then we're also in the process, as we go through this kind of moving of space, we're rebranding and we're redesigning the whole website as well. So it's a complete, it's an entire makeover. You know, if it was HGTV, it would be like a whole makeover thing, right? So like, that's really what we're up to. We're rewriting it. And we're also, it feels like, we're upgrading the DNA of the whole thing too, in terms of, and I mentioned this at the beginning, in terms of how we want to turn up and the role we want to play. And the 2-year lease has the potential to buy on the other end, right? So it's a 2-year lease with the potential to buy. So any of the money we put into the lease can go towards the purchase of this property or partnership in the building with Fran, who currently owns it, Fran and Ron. So that's a little sense of where we're at. Benefits of the move, obviously more space. We've had requests from 2 or 3 person businesses that want to be in the hub as well. We don't have capacity for that right now, so we're looking at making space for those. And then we're also looking at like how we play a role in the kind of like tourism industry in Mahone Bay as well. So how do we create walk-ins, people who are here for 2 weeks, where they need to pop in a place, have a couple of hours work, grab a cup of coffee, be around other interesting people. We can make space for that. So we're looking at how we position ourselves in the VIC, how we position ourselves in the pub and the restaurants and things like that, so we're more visible kind of within the tourism community. We're hoping to leverage some walk-ins, which we haven't really done because we've been up the top of the hill in the Mahone Bay Centre. One of the big questions we've had from our members is there hasn't been a professional meeting space where we've had our place right now. So it's always been like, yeah, I'm going to meet with my clients in the kitchen at the Mahone Bay Centre. It's kind of 1970s. It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel quite right. I feel like I'm bringing my top-end clients for a meeting, you know? And so it's been a real clear ask. We need professional meeting space, so that's going to be there. And then we also feel like we've done a lot of experiments around our programming and our events, and we now want to take that to the next level. We want to say, okay, what do we learn and how do we do it? And we're really clear that we can't do it without partnership. There's no way that we can run a really solid events roster on our own. It's too exhausting. We've got too much going on anyway. The only way we're going to be able to do that is in partnership with others, you know? So that's hopefully part of what could come out of this. And then I've talked about this already, that, you know, we're looking for a raised profile within the community now. In fact, we're going to have a raised profile whether we like it or not, because we're going to be on Main Street. People are going to be walking in way more than before. So we've got to think about how we respond to that. Do we turn up in the chamber differently? Like, how do we interact with the community and the economy here in such a way that's aligned with our values? Because to be honest, going to the chamber just feels painful to us most of the time, because it's not talking about our members, right? It's not talking about our people. And the business models that are applied there are nothing like the business models that most of our members are applying, right? So we've got to figure out, how do we turn up in that space now? How do we do that in a meaningful way for us? We haven't got it figured out, but we know it's going to be asked of us because of the move. All right, kind of memberships. Here's a little overview of the memberships, where we're heading. These will kick in the beginning of May. So there's a $99 part-time, 2 days a week, $249, which is a full-time, where you get a locker to put your stuff away in. There's a $299 a month permanent desk. And then there's a 5 hours a week drop-in where there's coffee and etc. And there's going to be a big kitchen space. There's a lounge space. There's bookshelves. There's hotel desks. It's lovely. I'll show you a map of the room in a bit. What else to say about that? Nothing. That's what we're working with. And we're constantly, this is like the 4th iteration of our membership model, because we're constantly trying out new things to fit what might work. Good. And then so this kind of like last piece of the presentation is really about like, okay, so we're moving up. Where are we focusing our attention and investment in terms of growing it? So like, you know, myself, Matt and Dave, we took out some shareholder loans. We're putting everything we've taken out back into the business, and we're putting more out of our own pockets back into it besides to support the renovation. So we're investing in it. So here are the kind of 3 areas that we're investing our attention and where we're looking for support, right? So obviously renovation and equipment, right? So furniture, like it's $250 a chair, right? I mean, that's the big deal for us. That's a big deal. You know, we need like 8 new chairs. That's $2,000 on chairs straight off the bat, right? That's crazy, you know? But like, we can't have a workspace where people have crappy chairs and they're constantly complaining about their bad backs. Like, good chair is important in my business, right? So we're renovating furniture. We've got Haley Thompson working with us on interior design. We've employed her to come in. She's found some great couches and stuff like that. So someone described the style as rustic urban. Or urban rustic is the style, you know, where it's like it's all wooden beams inside there, and we've got some very clear-cut, kind of shiny, sharp furniture as well. So it's kind of a nice mix. We're upgrading the technology, so we're going to have like top-end internet in there. We're looking at a different level of printer and photocopier that we're going to be putting in, you know, all based upon what members are saying that they need. Obviously, office equipment, and then it's really important to us that the space is beautiful, that the space feels beautiful. Like, there's no question for us that there's a relationship between the beauty of the space and the work people get done. People don't get good work done in rooms without daylight. They don't get good work done in rooms that don't feel inspiring when you walk in. We want our members to walk in and be like, I work here. All right. You know, it should speak to them, right? The space should speak to them about who they are and what they stand for, right? So it's a big deal for us. So we're putting a fair amount of attention into that. Events and programming, next level kind of, it was figuring out. So we're looking at continuing to do like tech socials and lunch and learns and all that kind of stuff, where it's more like there's a topic, people turn up, they have lunch together and they chat about it over lunch. We've got a whole kitchen area in the new space with a big, long, hopefully 9-foot wooden table where people can sit around, have lunch. There's a little kitchenette, they can grab coffee, make the sandwiches, put things in the microwave, and they just have at it, right? Training events, we've continued to do training events where we've had everything from like lawyers and accountants turn up to train people on the basics of accounting, all the way through to kind of like what's up there around leadership and inspirational training, where like what's the type of leadership that's needed right now to succeed? What does it take to start a business in a fundamentally uncertain marketplace, which everybody's dealing with, right? Yeah. What does it take to deal with massive growth? What does it take to work within a declining industry? I mean, all of these type of questions are things that people get to address. And then inspiration has been a continued part of our work. We live stream the Lean Startup Conference every year. So there's, you know, we're constantly looking for like what are things that we could put in place that would inspire our members. And then partnership, again, I've talked about this already. We're looking at partnership, like who's willing to partner with us around developing and designing a roster of events. How could that benefit both of our brands and both of our activity or more? And then also we've got a space that we think is good for rental. It's going to be beautiful, it's going to be awesome, and there's going to be all kinds of activity in there anyway. So if you're focusing around entrepreneurs and you want to run an entrepreneurial event, why not do it in a place where 20 entrepreneurs work? You know what I mean? And there's a meeting room. You know, if you've got meetings with people who are trying to set up startup businesses, why not use our meeting room? So to get to the meeting room, they walk through a room of 50 entrepreneurs who are getting stuff done on their way to the meeting with you about how to start their own business. I mean, for me, that's a real no-brainer. So I think we've got something in terms of the space and the rental that can offer things to lots of other people who are doing good work in the community. Or the planning of Awesome Foundation events, or whatever it might be. And then this last piece is visibility and influence. So, you know, we're putting attention into this. This is why we're rebranding. We're looking at marketing. We're looking at getting stuff in the VIC. We're going to have a beer on tap at the pub, which is going to be a Hub Ale. So we're going to have like a tap, which is great, and there's going to be beer mats with Hub on it. So we're really looking at like, how do we raise our visibility now? How do we turn up in the community so people know where we're at, they know what we are, and they know how to find us, even if they're not local, right? So that's a big piece for us. And then we're also exploring a concept around powered by users, where we're looking at like a co-branding model, where we're asking private businesses for $5,000, and then their brand gets associated with ours. So there's branding out in the foyer of the pub, which gets enormous traffic, and then everything we're putting out into the VIC and the restaurants and stuff like that. There's co-branding with that. So we're talking to a couple of private businesses already about what that might look like in terms of shared visibility. They're businesses that have aligned values, right? So they have a similar entrepreneurial outlook, right? But they're looking at expanding into the South Shore, or they're looking at raising their visibility in the South Shore, or being associated with us gives them greater credibility, right? But there's a conversation that happens right up front with them around, are we aligned? Because we don't want to just have anybody's logo lined up with ours, right? And then again, we've talked about leverage. We're in really big questions around how we leverage what we've got for change. You know, we want to create conditions in our community where small, successful, progressive businesses can thrive, like our members. So this can't just be about creating a lovely space for our members to come and meet. You know, we have to start engaging with the environment around us and saying, how can this environment support our members succeeding, not just us? And we know we're a piece of that. You know, like we're the kind of jargon out there is like we're the hub of an ecosystem of entrepreneurial practitioners. We just are, whether we like it or not. And people keep wanting to come. So it's expanding, right? And so it's like, what do we do with that? How do we leverage that? How does that become something that really makes change within our communities, right? So our kids stay here and don't move away when they're 18. I'm terrified of that. I got 3 kids, 3 young kids. I don't want to be sitting here and then flying off to different places to go visit them. I want them to feel like there's opportunity here, and that's where they want to stay. And it's like, and so the hub's experiencing success. So how do we amplify that so our kids stay here? Most of our members have kids, right? So we're members. The kind of things we're asking from members is painting party, February 28th. You want to come down and help us paint the space, please feel free to join us. It'll be fun. There'll be beer, and there's a live band in the pub afterwards and all kinds of fun stuff, so it'll be a good time. And obviously members are helping us move house and furniture and all that kind of stuff, and we've asked them to like be positive, be ambassadors for the work, and be patient. You know, renovations always hit roadblocks. Things take longer than you expect. Thanks, Andrew. And then in terms of partners, the stuff we're looking at is like, come and join in. We've got something going on here. We're constantly discovering what it is. How can you join in with what we're doing? How can you use the space? How can you rent our space? If you can't fund us, how can you leverage what we're doing to support things you're already doing? You know, so like, how can you use the space? Visibility. How we're doing something worthwhile. It speaks good of our region that this is happening here, right? We're in the global hub network. When we started this, we were told that rural hubs don't work. The only other place in the world where they've experimented with rural hubs is Italy, right? And they've been struggling to survive, right? So we've got something even on a global level in terms of the hub global brand, the hub global network, that in itself is surprising. People are like, what are they doing there, right? So it's like, where is it beneficial for you to raise our brand and to co-brand? Like, there's something powerful we've got here. How could that serve how could it be a tide that raises all ships and all that stuff? Sponsors, who do you know? Who could help us fund taking this business to this next level? I mean, it's like, for us, the business is going to its next level anyway. We don't have any choice. It's taking us there. This business is leading us, right? But like, the more sponsorship we get, the more accelerated our path will be. It's as simple as that, because the money unleashes our ability to upgrade our facilities, to upgrade, right, the type of programming and events we offer, to upgrade our leverage within the community, right? So like, do you know people who could be powered by users? What are organizations you think that could align with us? Like, help us figure that piece out. And we'll do it without them. We will, but like it'll be far quicker if we do it with more money, right? Because at the moment it's just me, Matt, and Dave throwing in money on the principle that we're willing, our investment principle is we're willing to put in what we're prepared to lose. That's our investment principle, right? And then the last thing is we're asking people to promote what we're doing. Tell people about it. Be an ambassador for it. Stand for what we stand for. You know, talk about it. And like, there's a real invitation to come and do that for us. So last slide. So this whole about where the new economy works, I think there's something fundamental in the attitude of our members, or that the attitude that the hub, the conditions that the hub creates for attitude, which is, and this is from the tablecloth of the first engagement meeting where someone was writing something on the tablecloth and they wrote no, 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 and then a big yes on top of it. And like that really feels like what we're up to. You know, it's like so many people in this area come up with great ideas and they sit around the kitchen table or down their pub with their mates and it gets shot down. People undermine it. And like the hub's the opposite of that. You turn up with an idea, you've suddenly got 5 or 6 people who are like, holy crap, what if you did this, this, and this? How about this? And I know someone who could help you with this. It's just the environment. There's an attitude of yes. There's an attitude of let's get it done and let's get it done together, and you're not going to be on your own in this. Like that's the environment that it's created. And for me, like if we're talking about the Ivanry report, this is it. We're doing it. And we're not asking permission, we're not getting any funding, we're just making it happen, right? And so I'm proud of what we're doing. I don't know where we're going. I know we're onto something because of the level of response we've got, and I'm really keen to figure out how is this part of a bigger picture, and how do we work with partners to take it to its next level, right? That's the kind of big questions we've got. Boom.